What's the crack? My name is Trez, and I want to just quickly discuss the differences between D4 and POE2. We know that POE2 is coming out very soon, and I've personally played a lot of Diablo 4 in the past. I played in a couple of the open betas prior to launch, and I played all the seasons all the way up along. I really enjoyed Season 2, Season 4, and Season 5. Season 1 and Season 3 were not great, and the most current season, Season 6, which was the launch of the expansion, I thought was pretty bad, actually, to be honest. Like, it had a lot of good things going for it, but just, I think, well, we'll discuss it in the video coming up, but Jonathan Rogers, the game director for POE2, I recently seen an interview between him and Legendary Drops, and one of the things that he talked about was the 5 pillars that make an ARPG really great. And he said basically no ARPG has done this since Diablo 2. And I just thought it was very interesting. And I'm gonna put the video on now in a second, and I want to just highlight what I experienced in D4 from some of the points that he's making, and what I think we're going to experience in Path of Exile 2 coming up. So let's have a look at the video, and I'll detail stuff.
So when we started, I guess what we saw was there were kind of like 5 pillars to make a good action RPG. Like and these are the things that we thought. Okay, like there are people who have some of these, but there's no other game that has all of them except for Diablo 2. So the first one would be well, I mean, in no particular order. You've got random level generation.
Yep.
For longevity, you just need to have it. You need to have it. I mean, you need to do it well, because if you don't have that, I mean, look, things are just going to get boring very quickly. You've just played through the same thing 1,000 times. I mean, obviously, even with random level generation, that can still happen, but it takes a lot longer.
So, random level generation. Let's talk about Diablo 4 first. It's an open world, so a lot of the open world is completely static. There's no random level generation, so we can expect that the open world parts are probably 6 seasons in now. It's completely stale. Helltide was revamped in season 4, I believe, and it was really enjoyable for that season. And then it's not like every time they improve a new game mode, I feel like the older game modes are left behind, and it's just because they're stale. There's no, like, you have random level generation in some aspects, like the pit, but it's really just like slightly changed, and it's really the same. You have random level generation in your nightmare dungeons, but not really, because the tiles only change slightly. They're basically the same format each time. Like, yeah, there's I can see this being much better in POE2. Like, the Atlas in the end game looks phenomenal. Like, it's a completely like infinite expanding randomly generated end game system that's just going to be fantastic. Like, every new map is going to have, well, depending on the biome, it's going to be different. The monsters are going to be different depending on the biomes. There's going to be different bosses in different areas that you're leading up to. It's so interesting, so interesting compared to Diablo 4's current like end game. There's no end game. All right, let's see the next one.
The next thing is a secure online economy. So effectively, you have to have the ability to trade items, and it has to be secure in the sense that nobody can dupe them. There's no cheats. There's nothing like that. Like, that's really important for that long-term feeling, because it makes the stuff that you find.
What did we have in Diablo 4 this season? We had crazy duping. We had it was absolutely blown out of the water. You had these absolutely perfect 4 great graphics items that were absolutely minted, and there was so many of them, the exact same item on the trading websites, and it was just like gold costs just completely hyperinflated, and there was basically no economy. Like, it was unplayable. POE2 going forward, they're going to have the currency trading system, I think, from the Settlers of Kalgur League, I think, is going to be still a system. And the trading system in POE2 PoE going back has always been very highly regarded as a really useful system to use. Like that's why you have people that play SSF and Trade League separately, like because some guys don't want to use it. They want to just make it harder for themselves because it's such a good system. And that's why some guys like to do well early so that they can get items cheaper, and then they can, it helps their own current bank grow larger. There's loads of different ways to get ahead using the economy, like in real life almost. Like,
feel like it has value.
Yeah.
Which I think is very important for the long term. The next one is that you have to have a random item system. So, and what I mean by that, what I mean is like the item system has to have elements of chance, and it has to be that anything you kill could be the thing that could drop the next amazing thing that you need to find. So, in practice, since we launched, we have also added more deterministic things as well, which I think do have a place. But you certainly need it needs to be that just killing any random monster could be the one that drops like the amazing item. Like you still need that feeling all the time. Otherwise, you like if you don't have that, then what happens is that you see then you finish a grind, and then the next giant grind is like stretching out ahead of you. And if you don't think you're going to get any rewardingness until the point where you finish that, that's a good moment that you might choose to quit. So it's actually one of those things that is really important as well.
So he talks about if there's no reward at the end and the goal is just completely stretched, that's the moment that you're going to quit. That really resonates from playing Diablo 4. Like you can get your build online so easily, and I don't know, like the upgrades feel so minimal. Like you're going from like fully ancestral stuff. Maybe you have an Uber and stuff like that as well. Like the Ubers are like so boring to farm for. You just go and you do your boss rotations with people, and it's just like loot explosion. Okay, go back, sell your stuff, loot explosion. I think you kill the boss in 2 seconds. It doesn't feel like, it's just boring. It's just like, this is, but you need to do it because you need to try and get your Uber uniques or your mythic uniques now. And yeah, it just, I don't know. Like sometimes you can get an Uber from a random monster, but it's really, 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 really rare. And like most people are just farming boss rotations anyway, so they don't even care. They usually, if that happens, it's like once every few seasons. So you can get your builds online really quick, and then you're just trying to min max, and for what even, like, anyway, like I don't know, the whole balance of the game seems a bit out of whack for me at the moment anyway. Sorry if I'm a bit negative, but just I really liked the game coming up until this season, and it's just I'm kind of done with it now.
Yeah. The next one is you need action combat. And at the time, the reason why what we were talking about there is, as opposed to the kind of more MMO style combat that you had back then, which was like very like, like just everything's on cooldown, like you have a million abilities and it's just kind of like one thing after the other. That sort of cooldown rotation, like sort of slower paced combat that you had from the MMOs at the time.
Let's talk about the combat. Let's actually pull up another couple of videos here, because I think POE2's combat looks absolutely fantastic. Now, Diablo 4's combat is pretty slick, but there's so many bugs that it's just, and yeah, it's slick, but it's like the bosses and the enemies are just, they're kind of boring to fight against. So you just go in and you just spam all your cooldowns, pull things in and destroy them in like a second. And if you're not doing that, then it feels like a slog. So let's just pick a couple of clips here. Go to where the boss is.
All the skills I've shown you so far.
This is actually even from a good while ago as well, so. Stay still, the mother! No. Like, look at that. That's fucking so cool. Like, that's, she's talking to you and everything. Like, the combat just feels so visceral and real, and it's it's actually scary and exciting. And now let's look at like one of the biggest bosses in Diablo 4. All right, here we go. Two little dudes pop up. It's like, whatever. I don't even know what's happening on the screen, really. Just spamming abilities. He's running into the wall. Yeah, that's just boring as fuck. So...
and was that all of them, or did I say 4? I can't quite remember now. Where was I up to? Did I miss one?
Maybe, I think so.
No, right. So there was the other one. The other one was a deep
You said the loot
system
and
of
the
character
action
customization.
combat and the trading.
Yeah. So a deep system of character customization. So effectively, you need enough depth in the way that you build your characters to make it so that you're willing to play through the same character. So not through the same character, through the game again, but with a different build, so that can still be interesting to you. And that was something that D2 didn't really have as much. But one thing D2 did have was the concept of the ladder reset, which is effectively like the fresh economic start. And that concept was ultra important because, and once again, if you're doing ladder resets, then you need to have the ability for your character to be different every time. There needs to be lots of build variety and things that you can do so that you feel like you're having a different experience each time as well.
So he's talking here about character balance, basically, and this really rings true in Diablo 4 Season 6 right now, because the Spiritborn class, their brand new class, the big reveal of the whole season, of the whole expansion, completely overpowered, completely bugged to death. There's basically 2 or 3 unintended interactions that are causing it to do like in the trillions and quintillions of damage, making it completely outshine the other classes by 10 or 100 times or even more. And you see the player base, it's like 80-something% playing Spiritborn, whereas in previous seasons it's a much more, like, there might be 1 or 2 classes that are standing out, but they're much closer to each other, where it's not as big of a gap and you don't feel as underpowered. So like there was completely no desire for most people, I think, to roll an alt this season. Like you wouldn't want to play a barbarian or a rogue or whatever this season, even though they had some new abilities that were introduced with the expansion. It just wasn't good enough. Like it's just, I think it was a big turnoff. The whole community, like, when everyone's playing the same class, it's not interesting. Like it's supposed to be class fantasy, it's supposed to be like you feel pigeonholed then into picking the Spiritborn. Even like for me personally, I don't like the jungle team. I don't really like the monk style class, which is basically what it is, D3 monk. And yeah, that kind of turned me off as well. Whereas you see, like, obviously POE2, now we're going into early access, there's probably going to be some balance issues, but there's so much choice. There's like everything is brand new, and I think they're going to refine it super well, like as they have done in POE1, going through the last few years. And like just seeing from the mercenary gameplay, I think that's one of the more popular classes for people to start for POE2. It just looks so cool, and there's so much more. So let's just finish off here what he says.
So those are kind of the like 5 pillars that we had, and I think that really like at this point, the one that I think a lot of companies still don't have, the ones that I think that companies still often don't do, one of them is
Blizzard.
They're really afraid to do full economic resets where there's absolutely zero progress that carries on between the leagues. that's something that so a lot of companies are doing seasonal content now, but the thing that after they do the first one that players will always say is, oh, we want you to have some way to skip the campaign, we want to have some way to like to
Yeah.
blah 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 keep, right? They're going to say that, right? But I think it's actually ultimately long term very harmful, because it means that like when you have a full economic reset, it means that new players can join your game and not feel like they're behind everyone. Like they're behind everyone in terms of knowledge, but they're not behind everyone in terms of like, physically speaking, everyone
Yeah.
who starts a part of Exile League is on the same playing field, apart from what they know about.
Yeah. So in Diablo 4, nobody plays the campaign every season. It's so the guys from previous seasons that have collected all their statues of Lilith, they've done all their renown. They start off with what is it, like 10 extra skill points at level 1, and then when they get to level 50 or whatever, 60, they get their huge amount of Paragon points to spend right away. Whereas a new player, they have to play the whole campaign and the expansion campaign, and then like if there was an economy, they would be miles behind everyone. They have to do all their renown in the first area. They'd have to do this and that, and it's, as you said, it hurts over the longevity of the game. And now we are like a year or more into Diablo 4, and we're seeing the fruits of that come to pasture. So thank God that POE2 is coming out, and soon, because it was kind of main game in Diablo 4 for a little while, and now I think it's time to put that to bed and move over to POE2. So let's hear for December 6th. And if you like that video, like and subscribe, blah blah blah. Tell me what your starting class is going to be. I think I'm leaning towards mercenary myself, but I really like the look of the warrior. But yeah, I'll probably playing a few of the classes anyway over the course of the early access. So cool. See you there.